Thank you, Speaker. I move that this House calls on the New South Wales Government to make public the secret Liberal National Coalition deal that determines who governs this state. Now, koalas have come to the top of the political agenda in New South Wales in the last weeks because of the threats to the coalition, to the government from the National Party. We know without decisive government action that koalas are threatened with extinction in the wild, and we know that it is crucial that we act to protect this species. We also know that this is just one of the many issues where the secret power-sharing deal between the Liberal and National Coalition is dictating how decisions in this state are being made. This is a public interest debate, and this topic brought on by the Greens today, calling for transparency when it comes to our democracy, is absolutely in the public interest. When I asked the Premier earlier today in question time to disclose the nature of the agreement, she referred me to comments both on the record and publicly made, and referred to the joint statement by the Deputy Premier and herself last Friday. I'll quote it. It's only 3 lines long, so I can quote it in its entirety. Following a meeting this morning between the Premier and Deputy Premier, the New South Wales Liberal and Nationals coalition remains in place. This includes a commitment to supporting Cabinet conventions and processes. The matter will be dealt with at an upcoming Cabinet meeting. Now, to be clear, the question I asked today and this motion before us now is not referring to the antics of just the last week. It is not supposed to be referring to the resolution or the supposed resolution between the Liberals and the National Coalition after this recent stoush. Rather, the Greens are calling for an end to the secrecy that surrounds the deal since the start of the Liberal National Coalition and when it was formed. The constant threats by the Deputy Premier have made this backroom deal, this not-so-gentlemanly arrangement that dictates who governs this state, and the secrecy around it now completely untenable. The complete lack of transparency about this power-sharing arrangement is a risk to our democracy, and it is not good enough. The only reason the National Party has ministers in this place, or the Leader of the Nationals is the Deputy Premier of this state, is because of this secret coalition deal between the Nationals and the Liberals. The people of New South Wales deserve to see this deal. Now, let me be clear. There is nothing wrong with different parties coming together to govern in the interests of the community. And more we will see this as the old parties see their votes plummet and new parties and independents see their votes increase. What is problematic is the absence of transparency around these arrangements and agreements. If the Greens were to enter into such an arrangement, we would make it public, as we did with the Gillard Government in the federal parliament and as we did with the Ardern Government in New Zealand. Different parties coming together, reaching an agreement to be able to serve and collectively govern in the interests of people of New South Wales has the potential to improve our democratic systems and the levels of debate and quality and policy outcomes for the state. But what we have here is the Liberals and the Nationals having a secret deal. And if it's not secret, then I challenge any one of the government members in this place, or indeed any member in this place, to put the details on the public record. I wonder if all members in the Liberal and National parties are aware of the specifics of the deal. Have they all seen it? I wonder if some of the journalists in the press gallery are aware of the specifics of the deal. Have they seen it? What about the New South Wales Governor? Does the New South Wales Governor see the deal before conducting the swearing-in ceremony of the New South Wales Cabinet? Imagine that, if the Queen's representative in this state is privy to the details of this deal, but not the people of New South Wales in this very legislature. It is an important principle at the heart of our democracy. The executive is accountable to the legislature, but under the secret agreement, the executive is bound by an agreement that we cannot see. Now, we know from recent reports that there's clearly some sort of formula in the deal that determines the number of ministers the Nats get, with recent reports suggesting that if 3 Nats move to the crossbench, that would result in the loss of a minister under the agreement. So clearly some have access to it, and yet this is not public information. And it is crucial that any power sharing arrangement is shared as public information and tabled in this place. Why is this so important? Why is it in the public interest? Under this secret deal, the Nationals are handled the role of the Deputy Premier and a number of ministerial and parliamentary positions. This comes with real power, as well as a significant pay increase and generous parliamentary resources. It also sets out the way that this government operates, but none of us are privy to the rules in which they are operating. Given the start over the past week, I wonder if there is anything in this secret agreement that actually delivers for country New South Wales. I wonder when the Nationals negotiate this agreement with the Liberals for this power sharing arrangement, whether the interests of country New South Wales are put on the agenda, or whether the deal only secures them a certain number of ministerial positions, a certain number of increases to their pay packets, or a certain number of parliamentary resource increases. I suspect it's the latter, because sadly for the people of regional New South Wales, as we have seen recently, and as my colleague Tamara Smith has just so articulately put in the no confidence motion against the Deputy Premier that we just voted on in this place, it is clear that when it comes to the interests of the community, then there is more infighting and more intersections between what is going on with keeping this deal together or breaking it apart than it is focused on what actually the community needs or wants. Now, we know that many people will say that this is a long-held thing, that we don't have to question it. And for many, many years in this place, I've not questioned it. Like so many, I just accept that we're talking about a Liberal national coalition. We just accept that that is a coalition. Well, now is the time for us to say we're not going to accept that anymore. The threats have been too much. We want to see that deal, and in the interests of the accountability of the executive to this place, we have a right to see that deal, and we should demand that that deal is tabled and the information is made public. The benefits and the parliamentary resources and the extra positions of power that are handed over to the Nationals under this power sharing arrangement should be shared, just as any other arrangement now or in the future between any governing parties should come together and table in this parliament in the interests of transparency any deals that are done on the side to set out and work out who governs this state and this place.
Speaker.